Okay, welcome back everybody. So this is the first video lesson in the chapter of how to cast shadows onto our architectural forms. Alright? Casting shadows is a really beautiful art form. It's not something you can do just simply by looking at reference and looking at photos. It's really a technique that you have to understand deeply in order to get very good results. Um, which is why I love this kind of artwork so much, because it's kind of like the highest form of technical drawing, in my opinion. Um, but I absolutely love this because it's such a beautiful art form. So this is the Tuscan column which I'm currently working on. The middle portion of the column is not complete yet. And I've also got to cast a shadow on this lip just under the etchiness. So still a bit of work left to do on this one. But you can still get the idea of what's going on here. Now, if you're looking at this diagram and you're thinking it's terribly complicated, then you would be correct. This is not an easy way to draw. This chapter, I think, will put everything that you've learned in this course so far to the test. If you're looking at this drawing and you're absolutely shitting yourself right now, don't worry, I'm not going to throw you in the deep end. I'm actually going to walk you through it, because I don't think it's a good way to teach people just by throwing them in the deep end. I'm going to help you, or at least try to do my best to help you get up to this level of skill. Okay? And I'm going to do my best to help you to understand what's actually going on in these diagrams. So we're really going to start simply to begin with. This is a great demonstration of what you're going to be doing, but it's not the first lesson. The first lesson is over here. And you can see I've drawn the front view and the top view of a cube. And you can see here's the 3D perspective view of that cube. And the perspective view is not that good. I just sketched it up very quickly, so I understand it's not accurate. It's just a very quick perspective sketch because I just needed to get something onto the paper. Alright? But it does the job. It looks like a cube, and this will be perfectly fine for what we're doing, even if it's not perfect. So have a look at the front view and the top view for me, and you'll notice there's a dashed line and it has the number 45 degrees right next to it. So that's a 45-degree angle that travels from corner to corner. And on the top view you can see that it's traveling in the opposite direction. So those dashed lines actually represent the direction of the shadow, that it represents the direction that it's traveling in. So if we come to the facade, this diagonal line represents the fall of light. Okay? So this is an elevation view, meaning it's a side view. So this is the direction that the shadow is falling in. It's falling in a 45-degree diagonal trajectory from point A at the top to point D at the bottom. You can see that on the Tuscan column here. I've extended this dashed line here. So basically what I was doing was I was casting a shadow from the corner of the abacus, I should say the bottom corner of the abacus, until it meets the column, right? So that's the shadow of the abacus projected onto the column itself. And it's done using this 45-degree diagonal line. The plan view. We've got another 45-degree angle, but this time it's traveling from point C to point F. So this represents the direction that the shadow is traveling in. So when we're looking at our object from above, this is the plan view of the Tuscan column here, which I actually didn't quite finish drawing the shadow for that. So you know what I will do? Just to make this a little more bearable to look at so you can understand it, I'm just going to quickly sketch in So this is the shadow of the column that I'm drawing in right now. There you go, you can see it. And that travels in a 45-degree direction. I still need to draw the shadows of these parts here, but this part for now will do. But hopefully you can actually see what's going on there now. So on the plan view, it travels in a 45-degree. Okay, so in the 3D view then, it's going to look a little bit like this. If the fall begins at point A, and the direction lands at point F at the back, have a look at the 3D diagram. That means that the shadow is traveling in this trajectory from point A to point F. So that's basically, you could think of it as the true angle of the shadow in a 3D setting. Because this view is telling us that the trajectory falls from point A and it lands at point D. But this view is telling us that it begins at point C and it lands at point F. The 3D view tells us the truth because we get the full volume. It's not landing at point D in the front view, it's landing in point F. The only reason it looks like it lands at point D is because F and D are aligned along this line here. And it's the same story with A and C. They are aligned vertically, so on the plan view it looks like it's beginning at point C, but it begins at point A and it lands at point F, and that's really what you need to understand, okay? So it's a fairly simple concept, but I will just give you a minute to kind of process that information. You will notice actually that there are two labels here, G and H. Those corners are not in either of these views. Only A, B, C, D, and E and F are represented in the 2D views. So if you're wondering why G and H are there, I'm just labeling those corners because those corners are different from E and F and A and B. But anyway, that's really all you need to understand for that one. It's a pretty simple concept, really. Might take your brain a minute to let that one click. The first time I did this, I had to take a moment to fully understand what was going on there. Now, this is an architectural drawing course, meaning we're doing 2D elevations and plans, right? We're not drawing three-dimensional volumes. However, we have been learning about three-dimensional volumes because even though we draw in the 2D, we have to think 3D. And I feel like this is a very good example of why that is, because if you looked at just the front view, you would think the shadow is traveling from A to D and C to F on this view, when in reality, in the three-dimensional reality, it's actually A to F. So we must train our brains to think three-dimensionally. It's very important. So keep doing those isometric exercises. Even do some perspective sketches as well. That can help you too. Don't just think two-dimensionally. Try to think all around the object because that's going to help you a lot, especially when it comes to this. So that's lesson 1. Quite simple. So I think we can confidently move on to the next lesson.